What's going on, guys? Mike Paletti here with Bassy Aquariums TV, and today I've got a little bit of a throwback video for you. If you followed the channel for any certain amount of time, or maybe you've even seen this video before, I did a video about 2 years ago talking about the types of fishing line that I like to use and just going over the types of fishing line that are out there in general. I also went over a type of line that a lot of people really weren't aware of before, and that was gliss that's made by Ardent. I noticed in the past 2 years that my opinions and tastes have kind of changed. So I kind of wanted to do a follow-up video to discuss what's changed and when and why I like to throw certain types of line for certain baits. So coming up next, the truth about fishing line, part 2. The first type of line I want to talk about is one that's known everywhere, and that's monofilament. Now for mono, I like to use Sunline Supernatural. This is 12-pound test, and as you can see, I use it a lot because I bought the giant spool. Reasons why I like mono. Mono stretches. So if you're fishing any type of moving bait, this is definitely the line that, in my opinion, you want to throw it on. Crankbaits, swim baits, jerk baits, anything like that. Because when a fish hits it, that line is going to stretch and absorb some of that initial shock, and that's going to help you keep the hooks in the fish. Yeah, of course, moderate action rods help, and using the right weight of rod also helps with all of that. But in my opinion, the best thing to use for moving bait because of that stretch is definitely monofilament. The second type of line I want to talk about is the one that I think gets the worst rap out of all fishing line, and that's fluorocarbon. Now the two that I like to use are Sunline FC Assassin and FC Sniper. Two totally different fluorocarbons that both have their place. But first I want to go over why I think fluorocarbon gets as bad of a rap as it does. A lot of people buy cheap fluorocarbon, and what happens with cheap fluorocarbon is they're not as sensitive, they have horrible line memory, they do not cast as far, they're very, very stiff, and that's why people think that fluorocarbon in general sucks. Fluorocarbon is my favorite type of line. If I could pick one to just live with forever, fluorocarbon's going to be it. The differences between high-end fluorocarbon and cheap fluorocarbon are exactly like I said. This stuff is a lot more supple. It's a lot easier to cast. It has great sensitivity, and it's more durable. I mean, really, higher-end fluorocarbons will outfish any mono any day, even if you get into the specific like reaction FC from Sunline that is built for reaction baits like crankbaits. I still like my mono there, but it's really, really close. The reasons why I use two different types of fluorocarbon. Assassin is a little bit thicker. It is a little bit more memory. It's not as supple, but I think it does have superior abrasion resistance. So I like to throw this whenever I'm fishing jigs, I'm fishing Texas rigs, anything around cover that I'm really afraid is going to nick up and break. That's when I'm going to throw the Assassin, because I really like how this line handles the heavier stuff. For the Sunline FC Sniper, this stuff, anytime I'm fishing finesse. Spy baits, weightless rigs, drop shots, all of that fun stuff, this is what I'm going with. It's super sensitive, it casts a long way, and it's just about invisible underwater, which is why people like fluorocarbon. This stuff, if I had to choose any line to live with, Sunline FC Sniper is going to be it for me. So the last of the big three that we haven't talked about yet is Braid. And if you've watched that video that we did 2 years ago, I said I hated Braid. I said I hated the way it felt, the way it sounded going through the rod. I hated everything about it, and I swore I'd never fish it. But certain types of braid, like Sunline, this is their X-Plasma Assegai, this stuff has changed my mind. This wasn't the first one though. I did try Sunline SX1 first, and I was incredibly shocked at how smooth it was and how it didn't make that much noise, and it casted so damn far. And I fell in love with that, and then I decided to give this a try, and this just takes it to the next level. This stuff is so smooth, so thin, casts a mile, super sensitive, and this is why I've started to transition really all of my spinning rods over to this stuff here. I truly believe now, after 2 years of research and trying new things, that I was wrong. There is a spot for braid, at least in my lineup, and that's with this stuff here. Now with heavier braids, yeah, I still don't like it. I don't plan on fishing it. I don't fish anywhere where there's heavy enough cover to really warrant using stuff like that. Certain people, absolutely, braid is like the best option for you if you're fishing super heavy cover or you're fishing frogs in the lily pads. By all means. It's just not my thing, and I honestly don't see myself ever using the heavy braid. But this stuff, yeah, all day. So that brings us to gliss. Is there really a place for this anymore? I mean, in that original video I said I liked it because it was quiet and it casted a mile and it did everything that I thought braid couldn't do. But now I have this. So the question, like I said, is there really a spot for gliss still in my lineup? And the answer is yeah. There are certain times where I do still prefer fishing the gliss over the Sunline braid. And that's when I'm really not worried about the abrasion resistance, because this stuff, even though it's only, I think I bought the 12 pound, this stuff is still super abrasion resistant for its size. This is not at all. This handles wind knots better. This is horrible. But there are certain occasions where I do still like to run the gliss. Nowhere near as often. I don't have combos dedicated to it anymore. I may have one that I swap out spools on every now and then. I still will use this more often than I use gliss. But if you own gliss or you're thinking about getting it, it's still not a bad option for you. Just know its limitations. It's not abrasion resistant at all. If you're fishing in the wind, you might as well put the damn thing down because it's just going to tangle up your line. Reach for something like this instead. But if you already got this and this is what you want to stick with, it'll still work for you. It still casts super far. It's incredibly sensitive. It's still a good fishing line. But would I choose it over braid? No, not in most cases. Well, guys, I hope this is a learning experience for you. I hope that you, if there's one thing you take away from this, I hope it's that you shouldn't limit yourself based on preconceived notions of what you think something is. 2 years ago, I thought all braid was loud and heavy and nasty, and I hated it. I forced myself to do research on it and found braid that I liked. And this is applicable with all aspects of fishing and of life. Don't limit yourself just because of what you think something is. Look into it more. Figure out for yourself what you like. Don't follow the pros trends. Don't listen to me. If I'm not telling you what you want to hear, don't listen to me. But I do think that every angler has to find what they like and what they're comfortable using. Because as Trent said in a couple videos ago talking about the A-rigs, confidence and being comfortable with what you're fishing is everything. If you are not comfortable and confident with what you're using, you're never going to catch them. Well, guys, that's all I got for today. So this is Mike Paletta with Bass Yakards TV. You guys have a good one.